Well, how to train your dragon, 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 toothless, 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 how to train your dragon, light fury, toothless, toothless, light fury, and I walked the line with my toothless, and I was holding him, and I walked across the stage with toothless to get my diploma, toothless, how to train your dragon, I am Steve, how to train your dragon, how to train your dragon. Dun, 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 dun. You are rowing, dun, 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 and then you're blowing bubbles. Dun, 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 dun. How to train your dragon. I am Steve. How to train your dragon. I am Steve. How to train your dragon. How to train your dragon. Well, how to train your dragon, 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 how to train your dragon. And we're done. Oh, toothless. Look, it's the Fitbit. How to train your dragon. Toothless. It says, rise and shine. And then it says, what does it say? You're jumping in the pool. You're playing soccer. How to train your dragon. It is the best watch. Even you're swimming. And you're playing with the hose. And you're climbing up. And I have an ESSA. And my ESSA is Toothless. He's an emotional support night fury. And I bring Toothless to the How to Train Your Dragon. And I even brought Toothless to the promotion. Did you like promotion, Toothless? Yes, you did. And when Luna is watching How to Train Your Dragon and she gets scared, Luna hugs Toothless and Luna pets Toothless. And then Luna's gonna watch the commercial and then Luna should touch grass. And speaking of touch grass, Luna should watch the again and again and the Toothless and again and again and again and the Toothless and again. How to Train Your Dragon. And then look, Toothless, look. And then you are walking. Your calories are burned. 10,494 steps. And then you are playing in the hose. And it is syncing to your phone and laptop. And then on the dashboard, it has How to Train Your Dragon. And you're gonna get a degree, Toothless. And your degree, Toothless, you're going a long way. And then you're second! Congratulations! And you're gonna get a diploma, Toothless. And Toothless is so cute. And then Toothless was asleep. And then Toothless was watching How to Train Your Dragon. And we're done. Na, na, na. And then you're running, and then you're biking, and then you're pulling up, and then you're at the pool and the ice, and you are watching How to Train Your Dragon. And then Toothless is so cute. And then How to Train Your Dragon. How to Train Your Dragon. And Toothless.